What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward, presented by Raymond. Empower your purpose with Raymond. I'm Daniela Bruce, and we'll soon be joined by Art Regner and Carly Johnston. Wherever you are watching today, make sure that you are liking, subscribing, or turning on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of the Word on Woodward every Tuesday and Thursday beginning at noon. As always, we've got a great lineup for you guys today. Dan Dickerson will be joining us shortly, as well as interviews with Red Wings goalie Thomas Greiss and a very special report from Sweden with Jonathan Ekliew, who is a Swedish reporter that covers the NHL. So that one's going to be really exciting. We'll also be joined by the Athletics' Cody Stavenhagen to talk the Tigers offseason. And we've got former Red Wing Kirk Maltby joining Art for the headliner to take a look at the 97 Cup season and the playoff run and that final series. So like I said, a very exciting show for you guys. Let's bring in Art Regner. Art, how are you doing today?
I could not be doing better, Daniela. I just feel great. I'm excited. You know, it's time for WOW. I want to wish all our fans across this country and my fan club in Berlin, hey, guys, I'm thinking about you.
I'm glad you're so enthusiastic today, Art. I'm thinking about a lot today. I'm moving this weekend. There's just a lot going on for me. So I'm really happy that you're so enthusiastic and that we're going to nail this show today.
Right. We are going to nail it. And I don't want to bring up the fact, because I don't want to make you sad that you can't bring Rocco with you. So I'm not even going to mention it. I'm not even going to mention it.
Rocco is my family dog, for those of you that don't know, and I'm moving out of the house. And the only reason I may cry on Saturday is because I will be leaving my dog.
Well, don't you have visitation? Haven't you hammered out a negotiation with your family?
You know, honestly,
we may have separation.
For custody. Yeah, we may have to go to court for custody battles of the dog. But no, he definitely will be coming over to visit. So exciting times ahead. But I know you guys don't care that much. What you care about is the big three presented by Chevy. So let's get right into that. And we'll talk a little Red Wings first, everybody. And we're going to talk about some of our prospects overseas, because as I said earlier, we're going to be joined by Jonathan Ekliew, who has a report on all of the guys that are on loan in Sweden and some of our younger prospects who are currently just playing in Sweden because they have yet to come over to the United States. But we'll start with an update on the guys not in Sweden, like Michael Rasmussen, Filip Zadina, and Filip Hronek, all playing overseas. Zadina and Hronek in the Czech Republic and Rasmussen in Austria. Rasmussen, according to Elite Prospects, has played 3 games for the Graz 99ers there in Austria, and he's logged 3 points. But we did hear something interesting from Steve Yzerman in his last press conference that said he didn't think that Michael Rasmussen's team was currently playing due to something with COVID, a COVID scare of some sort. So it was either his team wasn't playing or the league wasn't currently playing. But like I said, according to Elite Prospects, he's got 3 points in 3 games, which is pretty good.
Right, 3 points in 3 games. He's a +2, and he's also has 14 penalty minutes. Mo Seider is not in Germany anymore. He's playing for. Actually, we're going to get an update on him earlier. He's like for Rogel, or he plays for a really good team in Sweden. So, but he was at Anaheim, and then the Red Wings decided, I think because they wanted to keep him in Europe, have him play in the Swedish Hockey League, which is considered to be the 3rd best league in the entire world. But with that said, yeah, Ras has 14 penalty minutes. You know, he's got to be a giant in that league. He's 6'6", 230 pounds. He's playing really, really well. It's a big season for Michael because of all the acquisitions that the Red Wings have made. Especially with forward, he definitely believes, at 19, he had to stay in Detroit. He was on the Red Wings the whole season. Last year, he perfected being a center at the professional level in Grand Rapids, had a few injuries, and now he's, playing with the 99ers over there in Austria. And, so far, the early indication is that he's got some grit to him, which he always has had. He's using his size, and he's also getting points.
And again, according to Elite Prospects, Filip Hronek has played 9 games for his team in the Czech Republic and has logged 7 points, so he's doing well too. Filip Zadina has actually been posting a lot about it on his Twitter. I should say he's been tweeting about it. So if you don't follow Filip Zadina on Twitter, you should, because he's updating us after every single game right now. He has 5 points in 3 games, including 4 goals, so he's pretty hot. There was a slight injury scare, but he did take to Twitter to let us all know that it was no big deal, just a couple of stitches. Filip Zadina is fine, and he's doing really well in the Czech Republic.
Look, the Phil can't wait to get to Detroit. I mean, in the Red and White Authority podcast, with me sitting exactly right here where I'm sitting right now. And guess what? the Phil, as we like to call him, he was in the Czech Republic, and he told me he couldn't wait to get back to Detroit. He was itching to get back to Detroit. And this was days before that we announced that he was on loan to Larry Tracy or something. Pardon me, I know I butchered that. But his dad's the assistant coach on this team. He's essentially he's living in his parents' house and playing at the rink down the street. His dad is the assistant coach. His dad was a 20-year player in the Czech league, and now, as I said, is a coach. He's got 5 points in 3 games. He's a +2. The Phil is ready. His time has come. I know that a lot of people look at it and say, well, man, that 6th pick, they could have had Quinn Hughes, and granted, I mean, that might be something the Red Wings may never live down because Hughes went 7 right after Zadina in 2018. But Zadina is a goal scorer. The Red Wings need goal scoring. He just looks bigger. He's going to be 21 at the end of this month. I can't wait to see the Phil. He's definitely a top 6 forward. He's on the first or second power play unit. He and Mantha had the 2 best shots on the team. I'm excited. I'm not surprised. Bring the Phil back to the United States. Let him play, and we're going to see him. Like hopefully in early December if some of the reports are true.
Well, look at that, Art, a perfect transition into our second topic of the big 3. We're going to talk about the NHL and their updates. As of today, there was an NHL Board of Governors meeting, and Pierre LeBrun has been reporting that January 1st is still the target start date for the NHL. How they are going to return is still in question. There are many different options that they are considering, but the most important thing for Red Wings fans to know is that January 1st is still the target start date. And that means that training camps would start in mid-December, and we know that the Red Wings were one of the 7 teams that did not make the playoffs, so they'll have an extra week of training camp, which, Art, if I'm doing my math correctly, that pegs early December.
Whoa. Michigan State taught you well, Daniela. Yes, that's exactly right. In early December, the Red Wings should be hitting the ice at Little Caesars, whether it's at the Belfort Training Center or the Big Sheet. They may use both. I don't know what kind of training camp they can have. I know with travel restrictions and a closed border, there's a lot of things that need to come down in a hurry. However, it does sound like this league has been kind of leaning this way and has really been pushing, as you said, as Pierre LeBrun reported, this January 1st deadline. I am not so sure that's going to happen. I think that, but what I do like is the fact that the NBA is scheduled to begin in mid-December or late December. I think what's going to happen now is that, the NHL is going to start gearing up, revving up. They want to be in the news too. So I think eventually, and they took the NHL Players Committee, which was 5 when they had the 2 hub cities for the playoff. They now have 16 players on that, and I think that that's a sign that they're really going to hammer this out. And maybe with so many people involved, that the NHL Players Executive Committee, 16 guys, and then the Board of Governors, all these Zoom calls and everything are going out. You know what I think we're finding out in this COVID thing, and I know I'm going off a little off topic here, is that people seem to get more work done when they're not all together in a big room talking about going out to dinner or something. They're actually just sitting there on a Zoom call hammering stuff out. I think productivity has actually risen a little bit, because, we see, they're meeting. Well, how many times have we heard, they're meeting, they, leave some more meeting. It seems in the Zoom age that we're in right now, if these guys are actually meeting, they're actually a result. So I'm hopeful that, the old red and white is out on the ice at here in Detroit very, very soon. And we're playing hockey as of January 1st, because I think, unfortunately, we both know, Daniela, Michigan or Michigan State will not be in a bowl game on January 1st.
Things aren't looking good for them, but like you said, Art, they are looking good for the Red Wings. So hopefully come that second week of December, we will see the Red Wings on the ice. And now we're going to move on to our third and final topic of today's Big Three, the MLB Awards. We have some more to talk about. The Cy Young winners were announced last night. Shane Bieber from the American League, Cleveland Indian, and then Trevor Bauer from the National League, Cincinnati Red. Crazy to think that these guys just last season were playing together, and the Tigers had to face both of these guys quite a bit this season.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. I mean, how good was Cleveland? You know, Cleveland's all about pitching, which I think bodes well for the Tigers, because the Tigers, sooner rather than later, could have a staff of young arms that rival that. I mean, you know, guys that are really picking it up. I mean, Shane's the man. I mean, let's be honest. I know he didn't play pretty well in the playoff there, but you know, he was just lights out. He was just lights out. I mean, if the Tigers didn't get to him early, they weren't going to get to him. But not only the Tigers, it was the rest of the American League. And, you know, I mean, I just think that no surprise on either side, really. I don't know if they were both unanimous. I remember reading, but I can't remember right now. But I mean, I think that it was almost a slam dunk that both of those guys were going to win it.
You don't think Clayton Kershaw got any votes?
Well, if Matthew Stafford could vote, yes, he did. He at least got one. Or if Stafford included his whole family with Kelly and the kids, then I think he got 5 or so. But that's as far as it went for Clayton.
I had to give you one last mention of him, Art. I had to give it to you.
You know, they went to high school together. In case you didn't know, Matthew was the catcher and Kershaw was the pitcher. What is it? Is it Midland High? And Bobby Lane, Lion Great went there too. We can go on about the great state of Texas.
With that being said, let's talk about our managers of the year, Art. We also got those on Tuesday night, in Kevin Cash for the Tampa Bay Rays and Don Mattingly for the Marlins, which I don't think, again, very many surprises. The only thing that Kevin Cash may have questioned was his decision in that very last game of the World Series, but both of these guys were great managers throughout this season. Well,
they certainly were. I mean, you know, without question, they really, really were. And you look at, Cash, you know, that whole Snell thing, thank God the votes weren't taken after that move, because I'm not so sure he would have won it. Because, you know, baseball writers and the people that vote on these things are vindictive. They have elephant memories. They don't forget. So, but, you know, very, very well deserved. And then Don Mattingly, whom I loved, you know, longtime Yankee. I always liked Big Don as a player. And the reason I liked him is that he grew up in Evansville, Indiana. And at the time when I was growing up, the Tigers farm team, number one farm team, was not the Toledo Mud Hens. It was the Evansville Triplets, they were called. So Don Mattingly, believe it or not, grew up, according to Don Mattingly, although I guess maybe the story has changed, a Tigers fan. Because the kids, the players that he watched growing up in Evansville were Evansville Triplets, who then moved on to Detroit. So they were guys that they played for, quote unquote, his hometown team. So I always loved Don Mattingly. He turned out to be a great manager. You know, Miami is a very odd situation. I mean, they change their uniform every other day down there. So, you know, he doesn't know if he's coming or going. But you know, again, well-deserved. I think if you look at all these baseball awards, the right players and the right, you know, executives won these awards. I don't think that there's very little for debate here. I do say, though, it's kind of weird that the MVP of the American League isn't a guy named Mike Trout. That's kind of bizarre, but trust me, he's coming back with a vengeance.
Yes, definitely strange. And we'll talk about that in the other awards on the Word on Woodward as the week continues. And we do have to talk about AJ Hinch a little bit, Art, because when it comes to Manager of the Year, he has had 4 top 5 finishes in Houston. Let's be realistic here. When do you think he could be in the running as the Tigers manager?
Well, Manager of the Year, well, you know, obviously, unless they go 162-0 is my running joke here, he's not going to win it this coming season. But aside from that, you know, I think 2-3 years down the road, he will be in contention. You know, a lot of this happens, you know, and Sparky Anderson used to say that because before, you know, he became the Tigers manager, he had the Big Red Machine in Cincinnati. I mean, they were they were the modern day murderers row in a way. They kind of rivaled the 27 Yankees. I mean, that big red machine was just wonderful to watch. I mean, and Sparky was their manager, but he always said he was consistent. Then he got to Detroit with a young team that was up and coming. We saw what he did with the Tigers as a manager. It's not me, it's the players. It's the players. So when you ask me, when is AJ Hinch going to be a legitimate candidate for manager of the year? It's when Casey Arthur Mize and Scooby and Scooble and Manning and Faedo and hopefully Franklin Perez and Soto still is Soto. I can go on obviously about that. And then they unleash the torque. Torkelson's here, Riley Green's here, Diggler, whomever. I mean, we can. What's great about it is they have an unending list of top prospects now. Once those guys start to play, once this team elevates its game, suddenly the manager is a freaking genius, and he will be, he will definitely be in that category. And that's kind of why they brought him in too. I mean, maybe they lucked out with, with everything that's happened in the past to get him, and Tony La Russa, who has his own issues right now. Thank God Reinsdorf in Chicago loves the guy at 75. Let's bring him in. AJ fell into the Tigers' lap, but hey, it's a nice lap to fall in. AJ, you've worn that old English knee before as a player, but I give it 2 years. I think in 2 years he will be in the discussion.
Long answer short, 2 years, everybody.
Yeah, well, of course, I got to be melodramatic. I got to build it up a little bit.
Yes, you did definitely.
And that's more for our Berlin audience than it is for everybody else, because I know the German people. My last name Regner, that's German. I got to relate to the people of Berlin.
Like I said, I see why they like you so much, Art. That does it for today's Big Three, everybody. Thank you to Chevy for presenting the Big Three. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. It's time to welcome our first guest of the day for the mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars. Today's guest is Tigers radio play-by-play announcer Dan Dickerson. Dan, so excited to see you. It's always great to have you on the show. I was hoping you were outside. I was going to crack a joke about he's always outside and it's sunny today, but he's inside.
It's close. It's just a little too sunny. The sun is so low. It's a little too sunny on the back porch. I didn't want to get all washed out. I look rough enough on camera. I didn't want that. So, and Art, by the way, you're looking great. The mustache is coming in nice.
It is Movember, as you know. So I do it every year, and it is coming in pretty nice. I thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. I think that today's a very, very special day, and Daniela, I think you want to, because there's a very special thing going on today. Yes, and Daniela knows exactly what I'm talking about. Double D, we just want you to sit back and relax, because this is a very, very big day.
Yes, but the day is actually tomorrow. So we have to wish a friend of the show a very special happy birthday. And Dan, will include you in this one too, because guess what? It's Dan Petrie's birthday tomorrow.
And not only, I hope you guys know this, it's not just our birthdays. We were born on the same day in 1958. So we are, California, Michigan, separated at birth. That's how we look at it.
You're like twins.
Well,
it's an exclusive club, 11-13-58 club.
Brothers by different mothers, isn't that the old expression there?
Yeah.
So
that's how we look at it.
What? That's a big day. There's a lot of great people born, and I know, Double D, that you're a very modest man, and you don't really celebrate birthdays anymore. It's not that big of a deal for you.
That's
but
right.
For your legions of fans, it is a huge day. And then when you top off Peaches Petrie, I mean, the day should be a national holiday, at least here in the state of Michigan. And and Mike Duggan, a good Livonian in his own way. I'm gonna have to call Mayor Duggan and at least have him issue a mayoral proclamation tomorrow to make this Double D and Peaches Day tomorrow on your birthday. I mean, it's great. 1958, you say, huh? Wow.
1958, both of us.
I am almost to the day, because a week ago today was my birthday. I'm 1 year older than you.
Art, it's over.
One year.
Over.
Just 1 year. I know. And I look great. I mean, let's look at it. I mean, people just, I have to show my OD or my ID.
Anyway, Dan, we were messing with you a little bit, thinking we didn't remember that it was your birthday and only Dan Petrie's birthday, but you're just so humble that you just rolled with it so well. So all of our fans know tomorrow is Dan Dickerson's birthday as well, our great friend of the show. So we wish you a very happy birthday, Dan, and I hope you get to enjoy the day in some capacity.
Oh, lucky Friday the 13th. You know we will.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Very superstitious. I'm surprised you still don't have.
13th is unlucky. Our family, 13th is lucky day. Daughter's born on the 13th. I'm the 13th. My son's at 4/9, April 9th. That's 13.
Yeah, my father was born on March 13th, which was a Friday back wherever he was born, like 1930 or whenever it was. But yeah, 13. There's nothing wrong with 13. Now, let me ask you this in all seriousness, very much. This is a very serious question. It seemed when I first started to do this and travel with teams, we all go to a lot of hotels. At one point, there were a lot of hotels that when you would go into the elevator, it would go to the 12th floor and then it would go to the 14th floor. There wasn't a 13th floor. I have noticed since I started traveling with the Red Wings the last 3 or 4 years, again, that doesn't seem to hold true anymore, that there are 13th floors. Have you noticed that as well?
That's so funny you mentioned that, because it's one of the first things I think about. It's the stupidest thing. I would say still a majority do not have a 13th floor. And if you are on the 14th floor, and you notice this sometimes, you open the door on the 14th floor. Well, for the firefighters or engineers or whoever who need to know what really the floor number is, if you look down at that plate between the elevator and the floor, it'll say 13. So we're not fooling anybody here. You're on the 14th floor. You're on the 13th floor. Let's get over it and put it back in.
All right.
So far, this has been a very educational episode. We learned that Matthew Stafford and Clayton Kershaw know each other somehow from high school, and that even though it says 14, if you're a first responder, that damn floor is going to let you know that you're on the 13th floor, not the 14th floor. Do not follow the elevator. Thank you, Double D. I appreciate that. I'm writing that down, actually.
You bet.
All right, guys. We have fans waiting to get their questions answered, but only Art gets to get his questions answered, apparently. No, I'm just kidding, Art. Okay, moving on. Question 1 to Dan.
Aren't you on vacation next week? I can't wait.
I know. You're probably really excited. Jerry from Monroe asks, does Jeimer Candelario's play at first base and third base factor into the Tigers' free agent plan? If they could get a solid third base bat, I wouldn't mind seeing Candy at first. Dan, what do you think?
Well, it's a good question. It seems like the more logical pieces on the free agent market that might fit at first would be either a CJ Cron, again, coming back from injury, or a Carlos Santana, both guys probably available on a 1-year deal. But having said that, I think Jerry brings up a good point. The flexibility of Jeimer Candelario to play first and third, both well. Obviously, it's more valuable if you have a very good third baseman, although, again, a good fielding first baseman saves your infield a lot of errors if he's adept at scooping balls out of the dirt. Jeimer Candelario is a plus at third. He's plus 5 defensive runs saved in 80 games over the last 2 years at third base, and he was a plus at first base this year. That flexibility matters when you consider what's on the way from the farm system. Spencer Torkelson, for some reason, I still think he's going to end up at first. They are clearly trying to make him into a third baseman. That's great. If he can handle third base, then Jeimer Candelario can go to first. If you end up feeling that Spencer Torkelson is more of a first baseman, where he played all of his college career, you can put him at first and move Jeimer Candelario to third. I do think Jeimer Candelario certainly showed that he can be the bat they're looking for. You need to have power at the corner spots on the infield and the outfield. It was only 2 months, but Jeimer Candelario, I think, has finally hit that spot where he is going to be a really solid and impactful major league hitter from both sides of the plate. I think his flexibility at first and third, the ability to play both defensively above average, serves the Tigers very well in that flexibility as you try to figure out, is Isaac Paredes your opening day third baseman? If he is, then Candelario's at first. If you sign a free agent, Candelario can go to third. Paredes can get more seasoning in the minor leagues. And then when the Workmans and the Torkelsons of the world are ready, then you can figure out which belongs at which spot. I think it's been a great development that Candelario has shown he can play both spots well.
I like it. Definitely a good situation to have, Dan. It could be a lot worse than having Jeimer Candelario, who can do both very well. Now we'll move on to your question,
Right.
Art. Is Red Wings related? Ron from Westland asks, we're seeing a lot of draft picks sign in the last few weeks. Should we be worried that we haven't signed Lucas Raymond yet?
Well, Ron from Westland, I hope you're doing well today. No, not at all. I mean, they should not be worried. Number one, a deal will obviously get done. The interesting thing, and we've talked about this in the past, about when you draft players, if you draft a player from the European League or from college, American colleges, you have 4 years from their draft date to sign them. However, if you draft a player from the Canadian Hockey League, which is the Quebec League, the Ontario League, and the Western Hockey League, you have 2 years from their draft date. What does this all mean? This means two things. Lucas Raymond, the Red Wings have 4 years to sign him. And if they were by, if Steve, I don't know, decided, I have no idea. There's no clear-cut scenario where Steve would not sign Lucas Raymond within that 4-year period. But if he didn't, then he would be an unrestricted free agent. I guess he could go actually maybe in the draft and then be an unrestricted free agent. I'm not so sure of that rule. But what you're seeing and what's really happening is a lot of, and why American colleges have really become hockey juggernauts is because unless you're a can't miss prospect, a lot of kids who have aspirations to go into the NHL do not go into the Canadian Hockey League because if they're drafted, they have 2 years to sign. But if you're in college or you're playing in Europe, they have 4 years to sign you. 4 years where you're going to get physically stronger. You're going to go from 18 to 22. Colleges play, they practice all the time. They only play 2 days a week for the most part on Friday and Saturday. And then they're practicing, they're honing in on their skills. So no, the short answer is no, do not be concerned. I mean, the Red Wings are going to sign when Lucas Raymond is ready to come over here, which he believes is going to be next year. They're going to put, pen to paper with his signature on it, and he'll be here. But, the thing is, if he wants, it's only a really bad case scenario that I shudder to think about that Lucas Raymond wouldn't be signed within that 4-year period. That definitely is not a worry. Do not worry about that at all. The only thing, if you have a favorite player who plays in the Canadian Hockey League, either in the O, the Q, or the Western League, and he's not really kind of lighting it up, well, they only have 2 years to sign him, and chances are that they may not sign him, which makes him an unrestricted free agent, and then he can, is allowed to make deals wherever, or a team could. He's eligible for the draft. They could draft him at like 20 years old or whatever. So hopefully that answered your question, Mr. Westland.
Mr. Westland. It's Ron from Westland, but yes, I know. Ron, don't be worried.
Ronnie and I, hey, we BOGO every Thursday. He knows what I'm talking about.
Okay. Question 3, Dan. This one is for you. Dennis from Lansing asks, we've heard Art talk a lot, and he means a lot, about bringing in another catcher. If this happens, you think Griner, Rogers, or both will make the big league club?
Another good question. I would give the edge to Rogers right off the bat. Even though Jake Rogers did not ever get the call from the practice facility, the alternate training site at Toledo this year. Here's why I don't think you give up on Jake Rogers. Yes, I think that might have been sending a signal to Jake Rogers, but on the other hand, he's 25 years old. He'll be 26 next year. Jake Rogers still remains a premium defensive catcher. Those skills have not gone away. The track record of Jake Rogers in his career has been every time he goes up a level, he'll struggle a little bit, figure some things out, finish strong. That happened in 2018 at AA Erie. Terrible start, great finish, just to get to okay numbers by the end of the year, but it was a great finish over his last 40, 50 games. Started hot at AA in 2019, went to Toledo, struggled, but if you look at his struggles, it was a low batting average, but he hit with good power numbers. This guy knows how to draw a walk, an above average walk rate in the minor leagues. And then when he came to the major leagues in 2019, he really struggled. His first shot at major league action was tough, but the skills are in there to be, I think, a guy who can hit 230, 240 range, draw walks, hit with some power. And sometimes it takes catchers a little longer to develop offensively. Grayson Grinder's, I think, a perfectly fine backup, but I still think Jake Rogers has that ability to be a number one catcher. It won't be next year. Alavila has made it very clear. They need more offense from that position. That's why probably it's not going to be Austin Romine signed back, although if you look at Austin Romine and you think, well, if we don't make him the number one catcher and we have him share it maybe with Jake Rogers, is that the solution? Because Romine was better in a reserve role, hit 260 with some power with the Yankees his last 2 years in New York, about 220, 230 at-bats a year. So maybe that's his better role. But then again, if he's just going to be splitting the job, do you trust the other half to Rogers if you're looking for offense? Probably better to get that number one catcher, let Rogers play on a more sporadic basis, make sure his defense sharp, and, figure out a way to get this guy to be a productive major league hitter. This is where the analytics come in. He's got good plate discipline, and now he has to have that approach where he knows when to attack, what pitch in the strike zone to become a productive hitter, certainly in a backup role, I think, next year. And then I still think he's got that chance at being a number one guy, but he's got to show that he can make more contact at the major league level.
And Dylan Dingler is not in this conversation yet, right, Dan?
No. I mean, even the advanced college hitters, and I'm including a Spencer Torkelson, usually benefit from a couple of years in the minor leagues.
All right. Just had to make sure. I know we ask you a lot about the big guys coming up next season, so I had to clear the air with that one. Now we're going to get into our fourth and final question. Both of you are going to answer. I have no idea what direction this is going to go in, so I'm very interested. Joan from Ann Arbor asks, checking out some old WOW interviews. She must be checking out the Word on Woodward YouTube page, so shout out to Joan for that. But an old interview talking with Tram about his experience on Magnum PI, which current Tiger should make a cameo, looking for both the TV show and the Tiger. Art, what do you got for us?
Well, first of all, I want to say to Double D, because it's his birthday tomorrow, I like your little turkey guy that is near your fireplace. Have you clued him in a couple of weeks? He will be roasting in that fireplace and be on your
Wait, I gotta leave this way. There he is.
Yeah, there he goes. What a beautiful scene. And plus, this black and white photograph that you have over your couch, is that Paris? And it looks like the Eiffel Tower back there. Yeah.
It is indeed the Eiffel Tower.
When anyone else is talking, or are you just observing the background the whole time?
No. I'm kind of listening.
You didn't hear
to
a word I said, Daniela.
Yeah, I said, my God, he has a turkey back there, getting close to the fire, and that looks like Paris in the background. That or a big corn stalk or silo or something. But yeah, very beautiful. I love your decor. I really do. Now with television shows. Yeah, please. Well, please let her know. I'm a big fan. Well, I'm looking at this from a variety of different ways, as usual. I think that eventually when they get up here, the Tigers are going to have a lot of players do cameos or be guests on television shows. There's a lot of handsome young devils on this team. I actually see Riley Green on the current Magnum PI as like a fishing boat captain or something. A charter that Magnum goes on, and they both can wear Tiger caps because this Magnum, this current Magnum, he also wears a Tiger cap. You know, Torkelson, because of his rugged good looks and that hair that he has, I think that I see Torkelson being on Riverdale as a science teacher who ends up, that Betty and Veronica are really into, but he ends up getting murdered because that's what happens in Riverdale. And Jughead and Archie are on the case. And somehow Jughead is going to be, set up for that murder, and Archie comes and saves him. I also see, of course, Casey Arthur Mize, maybe the best looking, rugged looking Tiger of them all. He will have so many offers coming in to be on TV that I know he will turn to me and Double D to a certain degree, and say, guys, what do you think? What should I do? Should I leave my promising baseball career, my Cy Young's year, and become a television star? I will tell him no. Double D will tell him yes. But I have to look at a current Tiger, and I think that this is a natural, because the question is in the here and now, today, the 12th of November, 2020. Without question, this would be great. Miguel Cabrera as a celebrity voice coach on The Voice. And he could work with any of them. Him and Blake Shelton, I'd love to see that dynamic. John Legend is from Ohio, so he's pretty much aware of the Tigers, I would assume. So, and I think John Legend is a little bit of a sports fan. That would be a good marriage. Gwen Stefani and Miggy, I mean, you're talking kryptonite there. That thing would explode. But, of course, my girl, whom I love, as you know, I'm a big fan. I was heartbroken. I broke news about her divorce right here on WOW, a few shows ago, Kelly Clarkson. I would love to see Miggy and Kelly Clarkson together. How about, you're walking in, you're voice contestant, and you're walking in, I'm going to meet my celebrity judge, my celebrity coach, who's Kelly pick? And you sit there and you walk in and it's Miguel Cabrera. I guarantee you those people would have no idea who he was unless they were a baseball fan. And then, and then Miggy, of course, he would want everything to be kind of his Latin rap, I think it would be excellent. So Miguel Cabrera on The Voice, I think it's a wonderful idea. I would love to see it happen. But remember, years from now, 2 or 3 years from now on WOW, we're going to have a plethora of Tigers doing all kinds of appearances because they will be the talk of baseball.
I love it. Well, a lot of them could be on Dancing with the Stars. We have seen that during warm-ups. Jonathan Ekliew pretty good. Miguel Cabrera is pretty good. A lot of them could do Dancing with the Stars. So that's definitely a natural fit for most of them. But Dan, what do you think?
My head's spinning a little bit. Arthur clearly did a little more thinking about this than I did in terms of all the possibilities. And it really did open my eyes. Thanks, Art. I really appreciate that, to really think beyond and outside the box on some of these guys. But I think your last point's the best one. These guys are going to be all over the place within a few years. I don't think there's any question about it. So I came up with, we're enjoying watching The Mandalorian right now, and it made me think about the episode we watched last night. There's a sheriff in town where the Mandalorian goes looking for another Mandalorian, and you always remember Ron Gardenhart talking about Jacoby Jones. Whenever he was hurt or there was a question about whether he'd play, he'd say, yeah, John Wayne came into my office and told me he's ready to go. There's no question about it. He'd always call Jacoby Jones John Wayne. So I've got Jacoby Jones making a guest appearance on The Mandalorian as the sheriff in town.
All right.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see that. That would be great. May I ask you Bill something?
Oh, gosh. Yes.
Real quickly, are you guys hearing in your headset like someone's building a bookshelf in the background? Like power tools are going off and pounding? Or should I call 911?
Pretty good ears. We got a leaf blower outside.
Really? Because I'm hearing something that is like, wow, what, am I
love to say you're hearing things, but you picked that up.
Yeah.
Wow. Like a dog. Wow. Ears go right up.
Really? Double D, would it trouble you to just, put the leaf blower down for like a 20-minute segment? I mean, come on.
Another reason why I'm not outside today.
It's his
Yeah,
birthday.
beautiful. No, well, yeah,
Whatever you want.
that's like built-in excuse. All right, now who's your tiger, Daniela? We're all awaiting this.
No, I'll just make
We
it
know
really
you
quick.
thought
I don't know why, but it's Ron Gardenhire, and he's not even a Tiger anymore. But I guess he will always will be. So I can count that one, right? But I know he loves cigars. He's a big cigar guy, and I had just watched The Sopranos, so I feel like Ron Gardenhire could make a cameo in The Sopranos somewhere. Definitely, not Italian, but he could make a cameo.
Really? Wow.
It'd be a great cameo. No question.
Yeah.
No question. That voice,
It would be.
that voice and his ability to tell a story, might.
Could you see Gardy being like in one episode of Sopranos where Tony reluctantly, with tears in his eyes, has to off him right at the end?
Oh my God!
Gardy would love it.
That was not where I was going.
I agree with Double D. I think that Gardenhire, if he were going to do it, would want to get killed at the end of the episode. I mean, that for an actor is that's what it. Your death scene is some of the most memorable acting that you'll ever do in your career. People. I mean, so I think Gardy could pull it off.
All right,
no question.
That was my pick. All right, Dan. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You can go start your birthday festivities now. You have our permission.
Thank you. Big plans.
All right, Dan. We'll be talking.
Happy birthday, Double D.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, guys.
Maybe Dan will
Have a good
celebrate
one.
with a Little Caesars pepperoni cheeser. A big thank you to Little Caesars for delivering the mailbag. Little Caesars proudly introduces their pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. You guys, we still have a big show coming up for you. We'll talk some more Tigers baseball with Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic later in the show. We'll catch up with our Swedish reporter, Jonathan Ekliew, to talk about some of the Red Wings prospects that are currently playing in Sweden. And of course, Kirk Maltby will join Art for the headliner later in the show to talk about the 1997 Stanley Cup playoffs. But right now, we're going to stick to that hockey talk with Catching Up with Carly.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm pleased to be joined by Red Wings goaltender Thomas Greiss. How's it going, Thomas?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. We really appreciate it. All right, first things first, welcome to Hockey Time. We're so happy to have you. Are you excited to get things started, hopefully by the new year?
Oh, for sure. The sooner the better. I'm here early skating with the guys, and met a bunch of guys. Had an opportunity to skate with the goalie coach here now for a couple of days, and excited to get going.
Love it. Okay, so you were acquired by the Red Wings in free agency this year, about a month ago now. What was the process like? Did you have many conversations with Steve Yzerman leading up to the decision?
Not too many. I had a longer phone call with him afterwards. Just talk about a bunch of things. But it was a very positive call, and really looking forward to working with him more. And he has achieved great things in the past in his playing career and his GM career. I'm looking forward to the season.
There was definitely a spot to fill with the loss of Jimmy Howard, but what made you ultimately decide Detroit was a good fit for you?
I think big part was Yzerman, just his personality, what he has achieved in the past, and it's a good group of guys. A bunch of my old teammates are playing here now with Franz Nielsen and Filip, so I'm excited to rejoin with them, and it's a great hockey town, great area to live, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Okay, so you spent the last 5 seasons with the New York Islanders. Do you think it will be interesting transitioning to a new team? I know you said you've been skating with a few guys on the team.
Yeah, for sure. It's always, difficult and also nice to have change. 5 years playing in New York, you definitely get settled in there and you're very familiar with things. So it's a lot of new things, and things are handled differently if you're used to it again. But change is also good, and I'm looking for a new challenge.
All right, speaking of those 5 seasons in New York, before we move on, you made it to the playoffs 3 times. How does playoff hockey differ from regular season games?
I think it's just more intense, and just high intensity. Everybody gives their all. Sometimes during the regular season, it comes a long year, or one team is more banged up, and it's also different just playing more games against the same team in a row. Get to know each other better, and it's just a different style of hockey.
Well, we're hoping you can bring some of that playoff luck here to Detroit. Speaking of playoffs, this year looked a little different, playing in the bubble for a few games. How hard was it to adapt to that?
Yeah, it was a little different, especially without fans. All the guys love playing in front of the fans, and they were dearly missed. But it was overall not a bad experience. It was definitely weird being away from your family and everything for 2 months. But I think everybody was also happy to be able to play hockey again, play competitive hockey, and play for a cup.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Who got you into playing hockey as a kid, or was it just kind of like a given growing up where you did in Germany?
My daddy was a big hockey fan, but growing up, I played a bunch of sports. I played soccer, growing up in Germany, but also a lot of mountain biking and skiing. So I played a lot of different sports, but in the end, I just stuck with hockey.
Oh, well, we're happy you did. In 2004, you got drafted by the San Jose Sharks and then played in your first NHL regular season game in January of 2008. What was that moment like playing in your first NHL game?
Yeah, it was definitely special. It's something growing up you always dream of, or seems so far away, especially for a kid from Germany. You don't even think too much about it, but then you get drafted and then you actually get to play a game. It's just hard to describe, but it's also a very proud day, and yeah, it's a great day.
Having had the career you have and being in the league for X amount of years, do you think being on a young team like the Detroit Red Wings, you could help kind of guide these young guys in the locker room?
I sure hope so. I've been a bunch of different positions with great teams, with not so good teams, so I have a lot of experience just both ways, and just playing a lot of hockey and play with some great teammates that are even more experienced than me and have achieved great things. So hopefully I can help in a lot of ways the team this year.
Love it. Okay, we're going to step away from hockey for just a second. Get to know you a bit. I did a little Instagram stalking before this interview, and I have to say, you have a very interesting account. You're way better on Instagram than I am, excuse me. But one thing I did learn, and you mentioned it, you touched on it a bit earlier in a couple answers ago, you're an avid mountain biker. What got you into that?
Yeah, just growing up in Germany, I rode my bike ever since I pretty much could walk, more or less. And my parents, my dad is 80 by now, and he still rides his bike every day. And my mom also, just growing up in the environment just got me into it. And yeah, did it more and more. And now every summer, pretty much, I go on a bike trip somewhere with a bunch of friends, and we've been all over the road by now.
Okay, a quick question. Best place to bike so far that you've been on a trip to?
Ooh, it's a tough one. Whistler in Canada is always great, and South America is pretty nice, and Europe has a bunch of great spots too, so it's really tough to choose.
Very cool. Okay, now also what I saw on Instagram, you kind of just got a new puppy. So can you explain to me, you're sponsoring a future America's Vet Dog, Vaughn. Can you tell us about the program and why you're so passionate about it? What got you into it?
Yeah, it's a great program. Mostly my wife got me into it, but it's just a great program helping all the veterans with service dogs. They teach them. They're awesome puppies, obviously. They're very well trained and just great friends to have around. And yeah, they're on Long Island, so they got to see the whole facility, got to meet all the people that work there, and they're doing an amazing job and helping out those people.
But you have a few dogs of your own, correct?
Yeah, we got 2 dogs, 1 lab and 1 Malamute, and yeah, very good puppies, and happy to have them.
And a beautiful daughter, of course. Can't help but mention her.
Yeah, she's 5 years old, healthy, and yeah, can't ask for any more.
I'm sure this bit of a break from hockey has not been fun for you as an athlete, but as a dad, I'm sure it's been awesome to spend that kind of time with your family.
Oh, for sure. Sometimes during the season, you don't get to spend very much time with them. So this little break has been nice. A longer break has been nice, just spending time with the family, see him, and especially the daughter at 5, she's still running to daddy. So I'm sure it will change once she grows up. But it's a great time to have a little kid and be able to play with her.
Absolutely. What a fun age. Okay, one more post I want to ask you about is you posted a video on an exercise ball, going from sitting on it to standing on it. How the heck did you do that? And is that something you did over quarantine to get creative to keep your core strength and work on staying in shape when the gyms are closed?
I actually don't do that too much. It's a little more dangerous falling off the ball, but just a fun exercise. Do a lot of work with just one of those big balls, a lot of core strength training, just in general. So through my whole career, and it's just one of the fun things to play around once in a while.
Awesome, Thomas. Well, talent for sure. I can't do that. One last question. Looking forward to next season. What are you hoping to accomplish and bring to this Detroit Red Wings team?
Win as many games as we possibly can. Be better than last year, and yeah, if everybody chips in and plays their best, I'm sure we will be.
Well, can't wait. Fingers crossed that the season starts with the new year. Until then, Thomas, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, and it's nice to unofficially meet you.
Awesome. Great meeting you as well.
Thank you. Once again, thanks for joining me on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly. It was great to hear from one of our newest Red Wings, Thomas Greiss. Carly is going to stick with us, you guys, because it's time for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. But today, we're going to talk more 1997 Cup run for the Red Wings. We know that Fox Sports Detroit is running some classic Wings games, and tonight at 8 o'clock, they're going to run Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final, and Art is going to go in depth with Kirk Maltby later in the show. It's going to be great for the headliners to talk about that 97 Stanley Cup Final series. But Art, why don't you tell us about the impact that Kirk Maltby had, not only on Game 2, but really that whole series?
Well, what's really interesting is that if you really look back in history, by the time 1997 rolled around in those playoffs, even though we had the March 26th game where the Red Wings came together as a team, Detroit was considered at that point to be the best team that was never going to win anything. Even Steve Yzerman's leadership was questioned as how good of a captain is he? Detroit can't get over the hump. So there was kind of, in a weird way, some pressure on this team entering the 97 playoffs. Then when they made it to the finals, everybody thought that the Legion of Doom was going to do it. The Legion of Doom, Philly was the prohibitive favorite. Detroit didn't have a chance. They have a lot of Europeans. They're a skilled team, but they're not very big. They're not very tough. What did Scotty do? We've already talked about it in previous shows where he put Lindstrom and Murph against the Legion of Doom. Renberg, Leclerc, and Lindros, they're all 6'3", all 230, just beasts. They had over like 144 points as a line. I mean, they were just incredible players. They really, really were. But what else did Scotty do? He put the grind line against them. Joe Kocur, Kirk Maltby, and of course, Chris Draper. And that nullified them. They were chasing the grinders around, and the grinders could hold their own. In Game 1, Maltby scores a shorthanded goal to get the Red Wings going. Philly ties it up. Then Kocur scores a goal, make it 2-1. Philly then ties it up 2-2. Sergei gets the game winner. Red Wings win Game 1 4-2. In Game 2, however, Kirk Maltby scores on a tap-in, scores the game-winning goal. Kirk Maltby he's the only player that is a quote-unquote non-superstar player that I've ever seen that during a playoff game at Joe Louis Arena, and this was written about, people were screaming Maltby, Maltby, Maltby because of his penalty killing ability, because he could kill penalties as well as anybody, and he literally skated around the puck for the full 2 minutes of the penalty kill. He and Chris Draper together, I've always said this, if there was ever going to be, if you had specialty players in all-star games, and maybe this is something they should actually look at, although now they're at that 3-3 format, Kirk Maltby and Chris Draper would have been the penalty killers for their all-star team. They were that good together as a tandem. So really wrapping this up very, very quickly is that Kirk Maltby and the grind line, their impact in that series was terrific and tremendous and very impactful because they nullified the Legion of Doom. Leclerc got 1 goal in that whole series, and he was a 40-goal scorer that season. And Lindros got 1 goal in that series, and that came with like seconds left in the game-clinching Game 4. He finally scored a goal. Renberg didn't have any. So that's a testament not only to Nick and Larry, but also to the grind line and Kirk Maltby. Kirk Maltby always showed up in the big moments. The whole grind line did.
Are really a lot of the guys on the team, most of the guys on the team, showed up in that 97 Cup playoff. Like you said, no one thought they could do it, but they did. Carly, who else stepped up in that series?
Well, as Art was just mentioning, Kirk Maltby sealed the deal in Game 2, but perhaps one of the most memorable goals of the 1997 playoffs came from future member of the Grind Line, Darren McCarty, in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals. We know that play. We know it very well. McCarty took a nice pass from Tomas Sanderstrom and put the moves on both rookie defensemen Yanni Niinema and Ron Hextall to put the cup. See, you can see it right here, to put the Red Wings up 2-0 and ultimately win them the Stanley Cup for the first time in over 42 years. This was the 5th longest cup drought in NHL history. The teams with longer streaks include the Flyers, who they beat in 97 with 45, as we know, the Sabres and Canucks, who haven't won a cup in their 50-year history, and the longest streak belongs to Art. So the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are currently at 53 years without a Stanley Cup. Art loves to give credit to the Toronto Maple Leafs. But Daniela, how about you wrap it up and tell us a little more about it?
Definitely. And we talked about this. I do have to say, though, watching that highlight of Darren McCarty, I guess that's just not the kind of player that you remember Darren McCarty as, but that play was just spectacular. He really did put the moves on both of those guys to seal the deal for the Stanley Cup. But that very, very cool. It was making me smile the whole time. So we talked about this in the past. Goaltending was also huge for the Red Wings in that entire season with the tandem of Chris Osgood and Mike Vernon. When the playoffs came around, Mike Vernon was hot. So he got the start and he started all 20 games in the playoffs, won the Conn Smythe that year. So he was definitely a huge part of the 97 Cup victory. You're taking a look at some of the stuff that he did for the Red Wings during that series. Like I said, he was hot at the end of the season. Both him and Osgood split time, but Vernon ran with it all 20 games. He played really well to ultimately capture that Stanley Cup. And we talk about Darren McCarty and Joe Kocur showing up really big, but the Red Wings superstars also showed up in that series, including Sergei Fedorov, who started all 20 games. Of course, he played in all 20 playoff games, and he was averaging a point per game. He had 20 points in that playoff run, tallied 8 goals and 12 assists to total that 20 points. So definitely a very big part of the playoffs as well. As I mentioned, everyone really did step up during that series. So cool to see. And you can watch Game 2 of the 97 Stanley Cup Final on Fox Sports Detroit tonight at 8 o'clock. I know Art, Carly, and I will definitely be watching, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I will be. I don't remember much of it. I was really young when it happened, so it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is fun, Carly, because we didn't really get to live it. So it's fun to rewatch all these games on Fox Sports Detroit. And of course, you guys can learn more about it with Kirk Maltby as the headliner later in the show. He joined Art for a really great interview, so you won't want to miss that. And that does it for today's Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. And while we are talking about social media, Carly, what's been going on in the social media world this week?
All right, I'm going to talk about the Red Wings for a second. They just released these really cool Adidas reverse retro jerseys. Let's take a look at the video. They're white. So this wasn't quite a reveal. I think it was a little bit of a teaser. We don't really see them yet, but that is exciting to see. That song that's on there has been stuck in my head for the past couple of days. I've been watching it a few times. I'm really excited for those. And then kind of flipping the switch, not so much social media quite yet, but we're going to make it social media. If you head on over, as we know, it's Hockey Fights Cancer Month. And if you head on over to DetroitRedWings.com/HockeyFightsCancer, there's a card that can be downloaded and printed that you guys can fill out, the fans can fill out, take a photo with, and then upload the photo on the webpage to be possibly featured in a video on our social channels, the Detroit Red Wings social channels. So it'd be really cool if you let us know who you are fighting for. I know a lot of the players and coach did it, so you can check out that video on that page as well. But make sure to download those, print them out, take a picture with who you are fighting for, and upload it, and you may be featured on Detroit Red Wings social media, and then maybe on Let's Socialize. With that, you guys, that's all I have for right now. But make sure you're submitting your questions and comments on my Instagram page or on the Detroit Red Wings or Tigers Facebook. You guys know where it's at. # the word on Woodward. I'll find it and we'll answer them later on in the show. Daniela?
Carly, that's awesome. Obviously, really excited for the jersey. That's super cool. Really exciting for the Red Wings. But Hockey Fights Cancer is usually such a big night at Little Caesars Arena because each team spends their special night celebrating it in arena. We have a special puck drop and special events going on all night. So it's really cool that we're still able to do the I Fight For thing, you know?
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing everyone's pictures and continuing the tradition, even in this kind of weird, unprecedented time.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Carly. We'll see you later in the show. As she mentioned, you guys use the hashtag #WordOnWoodward with your questions, thoughts, and comments, and we will get to them later in the show. Like I said, we've got great guests all show. We're still going to talk to Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic about the Tigers offseason. And again, Kirk Maltby for the headliner. It's going to be a really exciting one. But right now, we're going to check in on our prospects that are playing in Sweden. It's time for Downtown Hockeytown, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is joining us all the way from Sweden. It's Jonathan Ekliew. Jonathan, thank you so much. We are really excited to have you today.
Well, hi everybody, and thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. Yeah. How are you guys doing?
We're doing wonderful. Like I said, we're just excited. And we know we have a lot of Red Wings prospects currently playing over in Sweden. So we're excited to touch base with you on that. But first, why don't you introduce yourself, Jonathan? Tell everybody what you do.
Yeah, I'm a hockey journalist in Sweden, based in Stockholm. I cover hockey, almost only hockey, and foremost, mostly the NHL. I have a podcast in Sweden solely about the NHL. So I'm up all night during the seasons because, for example, Detroit games, they start at 1 p.m. in the night, 1 a.m. actually, not 1 p.m. And so at this time of year when there's no NHL, I get to sleep at least. So now I'm doing pretty fine right now, actually.
Well, I am curious, Jonathan, then did you grow up a Red Wings fan? Because we consider Sweden like the 51st state of the United States here in Detroit, because it has the Red Wings have such a Swedish flavor and have had such a Swedish flavor on their team for decades now.
Well, you can. I understand why you think so, and there's many Swedish Red Wings fans here, but I was such a diehard NHL fan when I grew up, so I didn't want to support the most Swedish team. Because I thought that was a little mainstream. So to me, the Red Wings haven't really been a favorite team. I'm sorry for that, but I people who listen to my podcast in Sweden, they know which team I support, and I don't know if I dare to say it here, but I can say they are the.
Oh yeah.
They are the reigning Stanley Cup champion.
The Tampa Bay Lightning?
The team that I support. Yeah, so Steve Eisman's former team, yeah.
We'll take that. That's second best right there.
Yeah.
Steve Eisman built them, right?
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Red Wings, Steve Yzerson would be nothing. So, I mean, in a strange way, all roads lead back to Detroit for you.
Yeah, I see. And I'm very thankful for what Eisman did for the Tampa Bay Lightning, yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into talking some of these prospects that we have playing over in Sweden right now. And let's start with some of the newest Red Wings prospects, Lucas Raymond and Theodor Niederbach. They were both taken in the 2020 NHL draft. So, Jonathan, why don't you start with Lucas Raymond? What kind of player is he?
His talent is enormous. I think he will be a first-line winger for the Red Wings pretty soon. He's a really entertaining player in juniors here in Sweden. He's been really dominant, and also in the junior national teams. He's I think he will become a game breaker, because that's what he's been in juniors. He's been absolutely tearing it up in the junior league here. Now he's starting to come into his own in the men's league. The other night he had an awesome assist in the SHL for Frölunda in the men's league, where he deked past two defensemen, then a perfect pass to a linemate who scored a goal. So, and he's starting to get pretty big minutes, plays 15, 16 minutes a night with the big boys. So he's a really good player. His shot, his speed, and his confidence. He plays with confidence.
And then Theodor Niederbach, he plays in Frölunda as well, but for the junior team, correct?
Yeah, he plays for the junior team, and at this moment they have actually the junior league here in Sweden won't play until 2021 because of the coronavirus. He's been absolutely too good for that league too. But Frölunda is the best team in Sweden, so it's hard for every young guy to get playing time there. I mean, Lucas Raymond's too good, so he has to. They just have to give him a big role there in the men's team. But Niederbach is a little bit in between because he's too good for junior team, but not really mature enough maybe to get a big role in Frölunda's SHL team. So I think he will be loaned out probably to the second tier division here, probably maybe to Modo. I know maybe you recognize that team. It's the team that Peter Forsberg played. Peter Forsberg played for here in Sweden. Victor Hedman, the Zadina brothers, twins. Marcus Naslund. He's from that area, Niederbach. So I think he will play there maybe later this season.
Let's go to another player that we here in North America would label as a late bloomer. Red Wing fans have tended to forget about him, and that is Matthias Bromia, who is a little bit older, signed as a free agent. The Red Wings could only sign him for a year, but if it works out, I'm sure that Steve would sign him longer. But what can you tell us about Bromia, who seems to be playing extremely well?
Well, I have to say that he is from the same area in Stockholm that I am from. So shout out to Örby, yeah, and right. Yeah, and he's a really competitive player. Really. A little bit nasty. He plays with an edge, and he's always, you said he's a late bloomer, he's always proven people wrong. That's a factor that kind of drives him. So I wouldn't say that he has top line potential in the NHL, but he always proves people wrong. So maybe I really like his drive. He's a passionate player, and yeah, he is also putting up a lot of points here, and I think he could also really fit into a role as a middle six, maybe bottom six player in the NHL, because he's an energetic player who really can accept his role in a team.
Another player I want to ask you about really seems to is Albert Johansson, defenseman. I know that the Red Wings are very, very high on him.
Yeah, I like Albert. He's a really entertaining two-way defenseman, offensive, maybe more offensive defenseman. He's a fan favorite in Färjestad, the team he plays in, and his dad is kind of a legend in that club too. So that's it's a good family there. And yeah, he started this season really good. He's an entertaining offensive defenseman, I would say. And I think he will be a good NHL player in 2-3 years' time. I think maybe he needs a little bit more time to mature and get bigger and stronger, but he's a good player.
Next on our list, Jonathan, someone that has been making headlines recently, especially, well, I should say even over here in the United States, is Jonathan Berggren, who was drafted in the second round in 2018 by the Red Wings. Can you give us an update on him?
Yeah, he's doing really great here. A colleague of mine who's a columnist at the newspaper I work for called him the biggest sensation of the season here in Sweden, which I guess is great news for you Red Wings fans. He's the leading scoring player for Swedish guys in the league, has more than a point per game, and is really doing great. I thought that he would have a breakthrough in this league earlier in his career, but his career has been slowed down by injuries, both in his back, and he had a shoulder injury last season. But he said in interviews that it has been kind of a blessing because that has he's had a lot of time to build muscles in the gym and become a bigger and stronger player because he's a big, smallish guy. So now he's more of a complete package. I think he has to become a little more stronger to adapt to the NHL. But skill-wise, he's a top prospect, I would say.
couple of players that Red Wing fans very familiar with that are not of Swedish descent. First of all is Moritz Seider, the big German kid that the Red Wings shocked the world and drafted him 6th overall in 2019. But it sounds like Mo Seider is adapting very well to the Swedish league.
Yeah, he's doing really good. I think he's the best defenseman right now in the league. He's only played, when we record this, he's only played 6 or 7 games, but he's a point per game player as a defenseman. And I think at the first games, when you look at underlying numbers, he was absolutely terrific. He was leading the league in Corsi, for example. I really, you can just watch him for 1 minute and you see that he's good for this league. He's so composed, he's so poised, he's so calm, he's such a calm presence on the ice. And you imagine how young he is when he plays like that. So I think that Detroit was really right at drafting him so early because he's a gem.
Another one would be Joe Veleno, who at this point, everyone thinks he's at least a third-line center in the NHL. And if his offense comes around, he could certainly be a top 6 forward in the NHL level. How is Joe progressing?
Well, the other night, we actually have a game between Joe Veleno and Moritz Seider. It was a rivalry game here in the southern part of Sweden between Veleno's Malmö and Moritz Seider's Rögle. And Rögle is at absolute top of the table. And unfortunately, I have to say that Veleno's Malmö is dead last in the league right now. So he plays in a team that really struggles. But I am pretty impressed with him. He hasn't produced a lot of points yet. He's the second line center. The first line guy right now there is a Swede who's a prospect of the San Jose Sharks, Fredrik Handemark. But Veleno is doing pretty okay. He's playing 17, 18 minutes a night on the power play, on the penalty kill.
But Veleno and Seider were roommates in Grand Rapids. Did they mix it up on the ice a little bit? Was there a little bit of trash talking going on between the two of them?
Well, I saw the game, but actually I didn't know. But maybe there was some of that. But yeah. Actually Malmö didn't score a goal. Rögle won that game pretty easily. So I think Seider really has the bragging rights at least.
Well, Jonathan, that is all the time we have. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It has been great catching up with you. And we're definitely going to have you back on again to get an update on all of these guys that we have playing in Sweden right now.
Thank you very much for having me. And I wish you a good week here. And I hope we will see NHL hockey anytime soon.
Very soon. We're all hoping for that.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
again, Jonathan. And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Another thank you to Jonathan for joining us all the way from Sweden. But now we're going to get back to the United States and take a look at the Tigers offseason. It's time for Brush Street Beat, presented by our friends at McLaren Healthcare. Today's guest is Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic. Cody, as always, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got a lot to talk about with the Tigers. They made quite a few coaching changes over the past week here, and the most notable, the most talked about might be the Chris Fetter move, the hiring of Chris Fetter at pitching coach. He spent the past 3 seasons as the pitching coach at the University of Michigan. What do you make of the hire, and what do you think about Chris Fetter?
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris Fetter's a pretty terrific hire. This is a guy that was really, highly regarded throughout the coaching community. He interviewed for a handful of major league jobs last season. He interviewed for, with the Yankees and some other high-profile teams. He never had an official offer last year. He chose to stay at Michigan, which is his alma mater and a place he loves. So number one, I think it kind of speaks to the opportunity he saw in Detroit. I mean, I think in a way it's probably good for his family. He's able to stay a little closer to home. He's able to work for a guy in AJ Hinch, who he knows a little bit from their days in the Padres organization, they have a tight relationship. So I think that was one of the biggest draws for Chris Fetter. But the Tigers are getting a cutting-edge progressive pitching coach. I mean, this is a guy who's well-versed in analytics and technology, but if you talk to anyone who's ever been around him, one of his other biggest strengths is the ability to connect with players, to build relationships, to develop trust. I know one former Michigan player said he's kind of like a wild card. You can play him in any hand. So I think that speaks to just the array of Chris Fetter's skills. I think it totally is a huge hire that's really going to push the Tigers pitching staff forward, maybe their pitching infrastructure up and down the organization. Things are going to modernize. Things are going to be done a little bit differently, and I think that's good. I think it's especially good, too, that the Tigers promoted Juan Nieves from AAA to be the assistant pitching coach at the big league level. This is a guy who has been a pitching coach for the Red Sox and the Marlins. So if there's any concern about the lack of experience with Fetter or anything of that nature, it's almost counteracted by the addition of Juan Nieves. This is a guy who will have the experience. Fetter will kind of have that new energy. I think it's a really exciting for the Tigers pitching staff.
Cody, I guess when you say the University of Michigan cutting edge innovation, that obviously is the hallmark of the university. I threw that in there for Daniela. But you know who I want to talk about? We've talked about Lombard. We've talked about Chris Fetter. Obviously, I'm familiar with him as a Michigan player. That's how far back I go. But with all that said, what about the hitting coach, Scott Coolbaugh? What can you tell us about him? Because obviously the Tigers are going to be bringing up some young hitters here as well. And we get so caught up in the young arms, which we should, by the way. I understand that. But Coolbaugh, the White Sox hitting coach for a year, we saw what they could do. I think that, is he maybe – oh, God, and I hate to say it this way. Is he the trump card maybe for this coaching staff?
That's interesting. I think I would probably point to George Lombard, the bench coach, as the guy who I think is the most interesting. This is a guy who could have been a manager. Instead ends up being the bench coach. We can go into him more later, but Coolbaugh, I think, is an interesting hire in that it's a little bit of a departure from, you look at Fetter, kind of a new wave guy. You look at Lombard, a younger, guy with an analytic background. Coolbaugh has a lot of experience. He's been the Rangers hitting coach. He's been the Orioles hitting coach. He worked with the Dodgers organization in AAA, where he really earned, good reviews for the work he did with some of their rising prospects like Gavin Lux. And then last year, he was the White Sox assistant hitting coach. I wonder if the Tigers saw something there. This is a guy who, even though he's been around a little bit, does seem to have a reputation for working well with good young players. You think about what the White Sox did this past year. Could the Tigers lineup look a little bit more like that in 2023 or 2024, whenever you want to say, when guys like maybe Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson and hopefully a couple others are in the majors? I think it's interesting. I think Coolbaugh's had a lot of different stops. I think he's pretty well liked throughout the game. AJ Hinch kind of hinted that maybe he wasn't looking for this quote-unquote progressive hire at hitting coach. He kind of said hitting's a little different. The pitching side has adapted faster. And it's also adds a nice balance of experience to the staff. So honestly, I'm interested to learn a little bit more about Coolbaugh and hear a little bit more about maybe what that tie was and why they thought he's the guy. I know I've heard a lot of good things about him. But it'll be kind of how he fits in with the rest of the staff.
Cody, you seemed excited to talk about George Lombard. So why don't you expand on that for us? Why are you so excited about this hire?
I think Lombard is another guy kind of like Chris Fetter, who already was gaining a lot of attention throughout the industry. He had interviewed for multiple manager jobs in the past. I think the Orioles a year ago. And then obviously he interviewed for the Tigers job this past offseason before they went with AJ Hinch. When I was kind of running down the manager candidates, I was like, okay, if they can't get AJ Hinch, if they don't get Alex Cora, whatever, who do you turn to? And I think George Lombard would have had to be pretty high atop that list. This is a guy who has some well-versed experience. He's been in the minor leagues with the Red Sox organization, I think a player development role with the Braves organization, and then spent the past 5 years as first base coach under Dave Roberts with the Dodgers. So he's been there on that postseason stage. This is a guy who he's well versed in the analytics. He's got some attention this year for kind of finding his voice in social justice issues, and his family has an interesting background there as well. So this is, I think, just another highly respected, younger, kind of cutting edge coach who's very smart. And the simple fact that, well, maybe he could have been a manager. Now you get him as your bench coach. I think, number one, taking this job probably sets Lombard up well for some manager job somewhere in the future. I don't know if the Tigers will be able to hang on to him that long because of that commodity. But I think for now, if you're AJ Hinch, I think you have to be really pleased to have a guy as respected as George Lombard right there as kind of your right-hand man.
You mentioned that obviously one of the biggest things is you have to convince guys to come to Detroit if you do make a play at them. How will the hiring of AJ Hinch as manager impact guys' desire to come to Detroit?
Well, that's a good question. I think this coaching staff as a whole could be a pretty good selling point. I think there are pitchers that would like the idea of going to play for Chris Fetter. I think there are guys that, if you say, well, we have George Lombard here, we have Scott Coolbaugh here, we have Chip Hale, we have guys who know what they're doing, I think that could be a pretty big draw. The Hinch question is interesting. I think it's kind of exciting. It shows you have a World Series manager, an experienced guy, kind of shows that the Tigers are willing to get aggressive. I think that could be attractive to some people, and fair or foul, the Astros scandal will continue to be brought up. Are there certain players out there who might not want to play for a manager who is implicated in the scandal? That could be a real consideration. I don't think it's really going to inhibit the Tigers from signing free agents. If I had to guess, I think this coaching staff helps them certainly more than it hurts them. But when you hire AJ Hinch, there is that perception. I'm sure that'll come up with talks with players and agents, and so it'll be, Hinch just talked in a press conference. He'll probably have to say similar things to players and agents to explain, why he's putting that Astros thing in the past. It creates another layer of complication on all this. But at the end of the day, I also think there are a lot of players that would like to go play for AJ Hinch, a guy who has a reputation as a player's manager, who's been pretty well liked by players, especially in Houston. But does that mean it's wise to go out and drop a ton of money in free agency? It's a good question, because I think we all want to see more competitive teams. But I think you have to do so, somewhat wisely at the same time. So I actually would not really advocate for the Tigers to probably push for anyone in maybe the top 10 of this free agent market. I don't think they're in a position to really be handing out long-term deals. But, where it could get interesting, would they make a play for someone in that kind of 10 to 25 range? I really like Michael Brantley. I really like Jock Peterson. I think those are two guys who could be a good fit, add somewhat of a power bat, to a corner outfield spot. Now, to do that, the Tigers would have to basically bid against other contending teams. That's another thing you have to consider, is it's not just you hit a button like in a video game, okay, you signed that player. You have to make that player want to come to Detroit. I think in 03-04, it's famous when the Tigers got Pudge Rodriguez to Detroit, because a lot of people didn't think he would want to go play for the Tigers. So now if you want to go for someone in that middle tier, are you going to have to pay them a little extra? What's your incentive to get them to come to Detroit rather than a team that might be closer to the playoffs? So then you go down that list when you get in that 25 to 50 range, or even on down. I think there are guys that definitely make sense, and it'll be hard to know because you also have to see how the rest of that market shakes out a little bit. But I think the Tigers probably need a catcher. So could it be a reunion with James McCann or Alex Avila? Those are names that are going to be on the list. They need a corner infielder, probably a first baseman. Could they re-up CJ Crone or go after, there's a handful of similar guys. Same thing at second base. Do you re-sign Jonathan Scope? Maybe it'd be fun to see him make a play at DJ LeMahieu, but I probably don't see that happening. So then you look at outfield, then you look at starting pitcher, where I think the Tigers are going to have 5 guys set, but given the uncertainty of next season, the fact we're going to have innings limits on guys, already talked that a lot of teams might adopt 6-man rotations. I think you'll see the Tigers go after some pitching depth too. So not to get too long-winded, but there's a lot to be determined, and some of it even is out of the Tigers' control a little bit.
Well, Cody, it's already been an interesting offseason for the Tigers, and we'll definitely be talking to you more as this offseason progresses. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys take care.
You too, Cody, and a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat right here on the Word on Woodward. Another thank you to Cody for joining us. And as we talked about a little bit earlier in the show, Fox Sports Detroit will be running some classic Red Wings games. And tonight you've got game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals. And the guy that scored the game-winning goal in that game is joining Art right now.
Thank you, Danielle. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite. Our guest is 4-time Stanley Cup champion, currently professional scout for the Detroit Red Wings, the one and only number 18, Kirk Maltby. Kirk, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Art. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I want to get into it. All week long, Fox is showing the 1997 Stanley Cup Final, all the games. Obviously, you and the Grind Line were stars in that series. But before that, I want you to talk about, because people tend to forget, at that point in 1997, when you were playing for the Stanley Cup, you were almost the forgotten team. Like, people were almost labeling you as the greatest team that's never going to win anything, unfortunately. What was the team's mindset when you know that people were almost kind of labeling you as, underachievers?
Yeah, well, fortunately we had a lot of experience. We still had a good chunk of guys. I wasn't part of the 95 team that went to the finals against New Jersey and lost. But we had a bunch of guys around that team. The next year, obviously, losing to Colorado, just can't get over the hump against the good teams, can't win the big games. And then that was really no different coming into the 96-97 playoffs. We beat some good teams to get to the final, and then obviously getting there against a team like Philadelphia with obviously a guy like Eric Lindros, the Legion of Doom, him and Renberg and Leclerc. No one really gave us a chance because we were the smaller European, too many Europeans, and not tough enough, not physical enough that we wouldn't be able to match up against them. And, we kind of blocked things out. And I think for the guys that were there the 2 previous years going through the losses, used that experience to move forward and block things out, block negativity out. And I just remember that when we got into Philadelphia for game 1 for the media day and got ready for game 1, like, I don't even remember being really nervous. I just wanted to get out and play the game, get out and start the finals, game 1, and, give it our best. We felt that we could win. We knew that if we played our best hockey, and especially the way that we were playing up until that time, that we would have a good chance of winning. We didn't expect a sweep. I don't think anybody expected that one way or the other, but I just thought that we were playing as good a hockey as anybody, and maybe as good as we've ever played as a team over the last 2 to 3 years. And obviously it worked out, and we were able to win in 4. But we played the way we felt we could play and wanted to play to win, and that's what happened.
Well, I look at it, and Scotty Bowman did 2 things in that series against the Legion of Doom and the Philadelphia Flyers at Stanley Cup Final. One was playing Nick and Larry against the Legion of Doom, having them out on the ice. And the other was more times than not playing the Grind Line. You, Chris Draper, and Joe Kocur against them. As a matter of fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought you started game 1. That was, you guys started game 1. You were the first line out against the Legion of Doom, which really seemed to throw them off.
When Scotty started our line against the Legion of Doom, that's obviously a big platform in the hockey world, especially obviously, and to start our line against a line like that was telling not just our team, but I think their team that we can play anybody against you. And you got us, so-called 4th line with 2 Hall of Famers, like you said, Nick and Murph. And we, like I said though, like I don't remember being nervous. I just remember going out there. Didn't matter if it was Lindros's line or their fourth line. We just went out and wanted to play that we were capable of playing, and then we just felt confident, and that's the way we played. We played confident as a line. We played confident as a team, and as the game went on and as the series went on, we just felt like we had the momentum on our side and the confidence on our side, and you still need some things to happen and stay healthy, but we were full marks for the way we played in that series.
When the grind line, the supposedly fourth line, scores the first 2 goals, doesn't that get in the other team's head? Isn't that a statement?
Well, a little bit, because obviously I'm sure they did their homework and see who our offensive guys were, and I'm sure within their game plan, what they wanted to make sure they were doing when those guys were on the ice, and for me, that the first goal, the shorthanded goal, I was actually getting ready to take a slap shot before I passed it to Drapes, because I heard someone coming. I knew someone was coming, but I didn't know it was my teammate, my line mate Drapes, on a 2-0, and of all times shorthanded. So I'm glad I was ready when I made the pass to him. He gave it right back, and I was ready for it to one-touch it upstairs for the goal. But yeah, and then when Joey picked off a pass, I'm not sure who he picked it off. It might have been the big Shell Samuelson, and he went in and made a great move backhand shelf with Drake's back door wide open, but he scored, so that it's all good. But yeah, I think maybe from a mental standpoint, from Philly's standpoint, when you have us scoring goals, especially the first 2 goals of the game, and the big guys haven't even gotten the score sheet yet, maybe they, not panic, but maybe are starting to second guess a little bit, or get a little nervous, or feel the pressure a little bit more. I mean, you can't win, the old cliche, you can't win it in the first game, but you can, maybe put yourselves behind the 8 ball to lose it, and yeah. So I think for us to come out and score goals, the first 2 goals in game 1, as the visiting team, as the underdogs, I think that definitely helped us, but it sent a message to them and the hockey world that we were for real.
But let's go to game 2. The grind line was not done. Kirk Maltby comes and scores the game-winning goal in game 2. I guess by that time, you're just a wealth of confidence at that point, Kirk, right? You guys are world beaters. You go into game 2 in Philly and say, Legion of Doom, we're going to take this game.
Well, I like the way you put it, but I mean, we still had a lot of respect for that team and that line in particular. But we were confident still. I mean, we weren't cocky. We didn't, listen. Like I said, we had a lot of guys that were on our team from the 95 and 96 runs that fell short, and guys learned. And again, cliche is not to get too high or too low and this and that, but I thought we did a great job as a team. That once game 1 was over, yeah, we got 1 in the books, but we worried about game 2, and what happened was then, and now we have to be ready for game 2, and we were, and we came out, we played hard, we played well. I thought during the whole series we controlled the play a lot, and I'd like to sit here and say that my goal in game 2 was coast to coast, and I de-text all of his jock and put it top shelf. But to be honest with you, my recollection of it is I got the puck around our blue line, maybe just outside the blue line, and I had been out there a bit, and I was going to change shortly thereafter. And as I'm coming down the ice, the bench, it was in the second period, the benches were on my right-hand side, so I was going to, you know what, I'm quite a ways out. I'm going to take a slapper. Lo and behold, I caught him off guard, and I'd like to say that I have a decent shot, but I don't know if it's that good. But to be able to score there though, and we had a couple goals as a team through that series that were a little bit from long distance. But it's you can't score if you don't shoot. And for me on that one, it happened to be a game-winning goal on a shot that I didn't expect to go in. But you take them when you can.
When did it set in that you guys were going to win the Stanley Cup? Was it after taking the first 2 games in Philly that when you got back to Detroit? Because I mean, we were both there in '97, obviously. The town was ready to explode when you guys came back to play game 3 at the Joe.
Yeah, I said a little bit earlier that I wasn't nervous at all. I don't remember being nervous. I do remember being a little nervous for game 4. I remember coming to the rink. It was a nice sunny day. driving to the rink, trying to soak it up, trying to just live in the moment, and it's easy to say that stuff now, but I remember I usually get at the rink, for a 7:30 game. I would be there around 4:45, 5 o'clock at the latest. And I remember driving there and just the people that were already downtown, in the bars, in the restaurants, walking the streets with the jerseys. I mean, and then obviously when we came into the players' parking lot, the people that were already amassed on the stairs, and just it was just the atmosphere was phenomenal. And it would have been a shame for us not to again, not that we expected to sweep, but it would have been a shame not to win that game, to win the Stanley Cup. And we, as a team, I thought we kind of came out a little bit flat in game one. We didn't play great. Philly, I think they just kind of figured they had nothing to lose, really. They were down 3-0, and they came out, played a decent game. But, we got going, got a little momentum. So we did score. I believe it was Nick scored at the late in the first period to get a 1-0 lead. And, it was a great way to finish the season. Obviously not just by winning the Stanley Cup, but be able to do it at Joe Louis Arena in front of our home crowd and celebrate with them was, you couldn't have written the script any better.
Well, no. And then, of course, as he likes to call himself, the blind squirrel found his nut, and Darren McCarty had scored that. It scored one of the best moves I think I've ever seen in hockey. The rest is history. Detroit, after 42 years, Stanley Cup champions. Couldn't have been a better feeling, I guess, Kirk. Is the first one still the best one?
I mean, if I had a dollar for every time I was asked which one's the best one, I mean, yeah, the first one's the first one. I mean, it's like your first kiss, I guess, it's like you don't know what to expect. I mean, you kind of are, you're celebrating, you're yelling, you're hugging, you're everything with everybody. Then you get to see your family afterwards, and obviously the champagne starts going into the cup, and drinking all that, and drinking beers, and just the celebration begins. But I mean, just on the ice, it was just amazing how, like, with the confetti coming down from the ceiling, and the guys on the ice hugging, and just looking around the arena and seeing the celebration with the fans. I mean, it was, you still think about it, and it gives me chills. Like, just it kind of slows down to a degree where you just are able to soak everything in, and thank God for technology to be able to go back and watch some things, and watch games, and watch the celebrations and the parades and all that. But yeah, it was just, I mean, that goal, Mac, I mean, I got to comment on that. That was, I mean, I still remember Thomas Sandstrom gave it to him from the boards, and our end, Mac comes out one-on-one versus Niinema. Mac went to make a move, faked him going one way, and then even just how quickly he cut the puck back in on his backhand to forehand on Hextall, and then slide it into the empty net was just, you couldn't write a better script for a game-winning Stanley Cup goal.
But with that said, I have to ask you real quick in the remaining like a minute and a half we have here, and I hate to put you on the spot, but the moves the Red Wings made this offseason, from the Stahl trade, I'm not going to ask you to get into the draft too much, and then the free agent acquisitions, this has been a very good and productive offseason for the Red Wings.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we made some positive strides in signing guys. We didn't maybe make the big sexy deals that we've made in years past, especially back in the 90s. But I mean, we brought some guys in, like you said, with the Stahl, a guy that's going to solidify a spot back there, a lot of experience. He's going to help our young guys out back there. And, Stetcher back there, you need to play decent defense and try to keep the puck out of your net. I think we're gonna, we got a goalie with Greiss that, and with the Islanders there, he's an experienced guy. He's had a good last few years, and probably I would think they're gonna, with Bernier, they're gonna, share whatever the schedule looks like. But I mean, from a team standpoint of the free agent moves that we've made, I think we're a better team. Now, obviously, we got to go out there and show it, and they got to go out there and do it and prove that they're capable of doing and earning the ice time that they're going to get. But I think that, it's going to allow some of our young guys to grow, whether it's with the big club or whether it's in GR. It's going to allow us not to rush guys and bring them into situations that maybe they're not ready for, which is what we were able to do way back in the day of the 90s, where we were allowed to let guys just go learn to be pros down in the minors. So I'm excited for the season, whenever it's going to start, whatever it's going to look like. I'm dying to get back into a rink and watch some hockey. I get some of that with my son right now, but I miss NHL hockey live for sure, and I'm hoping that it's back sooner than later. But I do, from a team standpoint, believe that we are a better team this year, moving forward with the signings that we made, and I'm looking forward to seeing the new guys and the current guys and some of the young guys making a push to be a Detroit Red Wing this coming year.
Well, you said it so eloquently, as you usually do there, Kirk, but I agree with you. One of my favorite things is being over at Little Caesars Arena and bugging you during the game and trying to find out what's really going on. What's Steve thinking? But God only knows what Steve's thinking.
I'm glad. I mean, up there, it's really big now. I mean, at the Joe, I couldn't hide. There was nowhere to go at the Joe in the press box. You could get trapped up there. So at least up at the Joe or at LCA, if I want to avoid you for a little bit, there's lots of space up there. But no, I enjoy you coming over, depending on what's going on in the game and talking, and that's what I love about it. You get up there, whether it's with someone like you or another scout that is from another team, and just talking about guys. Usually, the biggest conversation up there is why is it so darn cold up in the press box? But that's talk for another day.
Yeah, that definitely is time for another day. All right, Kirk Maltby, thanks for joining us on the Headliner. It's always a pleasure. I mean, we go back a long way, and I just appreciate not only your time but your friendship over the years. And best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you at Little Caesars Arena real soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Art. I appreciate it. And yeah, let's hopefully hockey's back sooner than later.
Yep. That'll do it for this edition of The Headliner, presented by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer. It's only 96 calories. It tastes delicious, and it's available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Art. And another thank you to Kirk Maltby for joining us for The Headliner. Make sure you guys tune into Fox Sports Detroit tonight at 8 o'clock to watch Game 2 of the 97 Stanley Cup Final. Right now, we're going to get into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And of course, Carly Johnston is going to join us for this segment. Carly, what do you have for us today?
All right, I have a few pretty good questions. This one is my favorite. To Art, something really interesting. We had a fan, Tom Zola, ask, where does AJ Hinch rank when it comes to all-time Edmonton Trappers alumni? So Edmonton Trappers was the AAA team that is no longer over in Edmonton.
Well, first of all, before I answer, and I do have an answer for that, I want you, I don't know if either one of you noticed, but today, my hairstyle, I am paying tribute and homage to Carly because I have the Carly curl. I've had the whole thing for the whole show. I haven't swatted it back. Remember, Carly? Remember how you had that one style, which I love, by the way. So, Carly,
yes.
This look is for you.
Thank you.
Very, 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 very nice look, Carly. And wow, very nice. I love it. I don't think I'm ever going to change my style. With that said, well, it's really interesting because AJ Hinch was an Edmonton Trapper. They kind of embrace him now, or the people that remember the old Trappers, because they're not around anymore. He won a title with them, I believe, if Edmonton won a title, but when they won the World Series, when Houston won the World Series, they said, hey, they're the World Series champion, former Trapper AJ Hinch. What's really interesting, though, if you go to, and I guess, we can't believe everything on Wikipedia. God, we can't. But when you look at notable Trappers that have put on the Trapper uniform, and it's listed alphabetically, and they have a little flag for each country, AJ Hinch is not on it. He's not. So based on that, even though he won a World Series title and is an excellent manager, where does he rank as far as on the all-time list of, Edmonton Trappers? And I can only go by Wikipedia. And notable Trappers, he didn't make the list. He did not make the list. So I'm going to have to say he ranks number one in our hearts, as always. AJ Hinch, Tiger manager, former Tiger catcher. On the team, I think that lost 119 games, if I remember correctly. But on the all-time list, He's probably between 25 and 50.
Okay. Edmonton Trappers alumni. He was a catcher for them. Won a title, as Art said, but doesn't rank high up on the list. I don't know. We may have to fix that Wikipedia page because you can
I guess we could probably do it right now. I could probably add him, right? I mean, anybody can put anything on Wikipedia, but I was surprised because I figured, after this nice, really glowing story, like in the Edmonton Journal, they had about him winning back in 2017 or, Astros winning and, former Trapper. And I figure, wow, that's cool. So I'm reading the story. And then I look and I say, well, let me, see about the Trappers. I plug in the Trappers. Wikipedia, of course, comes up first. So I say, okay, the history of the Trappers aren't here anymore. Boom, 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 boom. Notable Trappers, notable Trapper players. I click that. AJ's not on it. That is my mandate. Before Tuesday's show, I'm adding him on there. Now, if he were their manager, of course, he would be right at the top.
Of course. Well, he's a notable Tiger that was now the manager of the Tigers. So, Edmonton Trappers, we'll have to fix that Wikipedia page, but moving on to Daniela's question. We got from a fan, what role do you think Fabry will play in the future of the Red Wings? That question comes from Delapio1.
Well, not as big of a role as Tyler Bertuzzi. Let me start by saying that.
Very good, Daniela. Very, very good.
Well, I'm just kidding. Robbie Fabry is clearly going to play a big role, at least in the immediate future, since Steve Yzerman did decide to extend his contract by 2 years. So I think that means he likes him. That means he likes what he did last season, and he really did make an immediate impact when he was traded to the Red Wings back in November of last season. He scored 2 power play goals in his first game as a Red Wing. So he definitely made an impact, and a positive impact at that. I think the biggest question with Robbie Fabry is, where is he going to play? He's been a winger for most of his career. He got some time at center at the end of the last Red Wings season, and that's his natural position. So I would think that they want him to be a center, and it looks like he might be with the signing of Bobby Ryan and Vladislav Nemesnikov. Nemesnikov can play all 3 positions when it comes to left and right wing, and then center as well. So that will be interesting to see where he goes. But like I said, I think the big question is, where is Robbie Fabry going to play? And I think he wants to play center. And by the end of last season, it looked like Steve Yzerman wanted him to play center as well.
It's interesting to think about how all the pieces of the puzzle are going to fit together in this next upcoming season. Okay, and last but not least, this question has nothing to do with sports. And Art, I'm going to preface this question by saying you only get one answer. One. What is your favorite movie?
Wow, I wish we could answer one for each genre.
Nope. Literally one all-encompassing movie.
My all-time favorite.
So I'm going to hold it up.
My all-time favorite film. Well, it's a toss-up.
No, there is no toss-up.
See, when you say toss-up, you can always say more than one, and then you get to pick one. But I have to pick one. I know I have to pick one, but right now it's a toss-up. A movie that I absolutely love, but I also love the book by Frederick Forsyth, is The Day of the Jackal. The Day of the Jackal is an excellent, excellent film. It's not one that's, I don't even know if it's on, the American Film Institute's top 100 films, but that's a great movie. Anytime you can see it, I recommend it. But it's not my favorite movie of all time. I could go back to, as being a little boy, and I really liked all the Disney animated films back then before it was, this Pixel stuff. It was actually, like cartoonish. But I can't say like Cinderella or, something like that. Or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, although I was really into the dwarfs as a little kid. I could go on, but movie, man, that's a tough one. No, that's really a tough one. There've been a lot of great films in the day. And I know that I'm almost stumped because there's so many films running through my head, but I think that my greatest, the all-time film that I really, really like, and I think because this goes back again to my father, he was too young for World War II. but the Detroit, he wrote these letters to servicemen from Detroit. It's honest to God, I'm serious about this. They wrote about him. He wrote these. No, wait, and I'm going to tell you what it is, because he wrote these letters to servicemen, at this one camp who were from Detroit, and they all sent him letters back. And the whole staff, including like the colonel and the major, I have it downstairs, is a big photograph of all their patches, from which divisions they were in and all this kind of stuff. So my father, because of when he was born and too young to serve in World War II, but he remembered it, was a big like movie buff and loved all those movies. And so the last film that I went with him before he passed away was Saving Private Ryan. And I knew that he would like it. And I knew that opening battle scene of D-Day, I guess Omaha Beach, if I remember correctly, which is like 15 minutes long. It's really realistic and all that kind of stuff. And, it's a really interesting story about they have to find Private Ryan because he's the last surviving son. His 4 brothers were serving, I believe, if I remember again correctly. And they wanted to pull, Tom Hanks, they had to pull him out because, you want, to continue the bloodline of the family. He was it. I think it was Matt Damon, right? Well, anyway, we saw that movie, and I knew he really loved it. I knew he really enjoyed it. It was just him and I. We had dinner. So, sometimes I would base just on the memories that I have of that film and how into it he was. And it was just me and my dad. I would say probably at this point, if I had to pick it, because of all the factors involved, just not the art of filmmaking, I would say Saving Private Ryan.
I like that answer. That's a good one. We finally got to it. Took a minute, but that was a good story. I really appreciate that one. All right. The question again from Smithy Hockey. Favorite movie? Daniela, you're up.
Oh, I didn't even know I was answering this. Well, it's not even a question for me because there is one all-time favorite movie from when I was a kid, even until now. It's The Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. All-time favorite. No questions asked. I love it. And I'm not even going to pick a second one because it's against the rules and Art never follows.
Sorry.
Wait a second. So your favorite film, the lead actor is Adam Sandler.
Correct.
Think about that for a second. I'm not criticizing. It's your favorite. I mean, to each his own,
Criticizing.
I think of all these great actors that have been produced by the world, and don't get me wrong, Adam Sandler is a great comedian, and I love the Hanukkah song and Opera Man and all that kind of stuff. But so your favorite movie, the lead actor is Adam Sandler. Wow,
correct.
That's
I have a couple others, Art, but unlike you, I just stuck to the one.
You know what? To restore my faith in mankind, give me one more movie.
Taken.
Oh, wow. Isn't that
interesting events?
Yeah, really. You've gone from Adam Sandler to Taken. Isn't that that Neeson guy?
Yeah. Liam guy? Just say his name, Art.
His name. Neeson.
Now my phone is lighting up about Sandler.
I love The Dark Knight. I really like that whole Batman series, actually. But The Dark Knight, really good. I like those kind of movies. But my all-time favorite that holds a spot in my heart, because I told you it stems from when I was a little kid. I used to watch the VHS every single day after school. The Wedding Singer.
I appreciate that.
Probably explained a lot about me.
Okay, Carly, what's your favorite? Carly, what's your favorite film? I can't wait to hear this one.
Something that, well, now that I think about it, when I watched it, I'm like, Mom and Dad, why'd you let me watch that so young? But again, I'm the third out of 4 kids, so they're kind of just like, oh, whatever. Tommy Boy. Carly is like my favorite comedian of all time. Rest in peace. But Tommy Boy is a classic. No matter what day it is, what mood I'm in, that movie can make me laugh and bring joy, and that's all that matters. We all have joy. You had joy coming from the experience of watching Saving Private Ryan with your dad. Daniela again brings up your childhood. kind of on the same page, you and I. We're like, Mom and Dad, why did you let me watch that?
I didn't understand that at the time.
How do you get it right? The Austin Powers series too. I was like, Mom, Dad. What?
That's another one. That's all.
Wow. I think there's a lot of great filmmakers that have passed on to the great beyond that are rolling over in their graves right now after
What do
this
you want
segment.
me to say? Shawshank Redemption? Is that what you want to hear? Like, do you want me to just say one of the all-time greats?
Yeah, I think Bergman's films,
Titanic.
Ingmar Bergman. I love him. Yes. The old Charlie Chaplin classics. I love them. Of course, you can't go wrong with the Marx Brothers. Just wonderful films all along the board. Spielberg, a modern day, genius. I thought you guys would expound by that.
I'm more of a Happy Gilmore kind of guy or kind of girl. guy.
Are we having some sort of gender revealing party? I don't think that's what they're supposed to be there, Daniela. So what do you really want to say?
I like watching movies that like bring me joy and make me laugh. Like we do enough throughout the day. We have daily stresses, and we're just like, it's nice to sit down with some popcorn and some wine and watch Happy Gilmore.
You know what's a great comedy? It's Gene Wilder and Donald Sutherland. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. They're the Corsican brothers. They're identical twins, but they're switched at birth. So, meaning they're identical twins, but Donald Sutherland and Gene Wilder are brothers, and Donald Sutherland and Gene Wilder are brothers. Two are from a really poor French family, and the other ones are like the notorious Corsican brothers. But they're not. They were. So you know what I mean. So they're not really brothers, but they think they're brothers, and then they end up, through the mishaps of a comedy, they end up like meeting during the French Revolution. Start the Revolution Without Me. I think that might be the name of it. That is a great movie. And Gene Wilder and Donald Sutherland are excellent in that film. But it's not maybe well known. Every time that's on, I always watch that one. I can pick that movie up at any point in the movie and just sit there and watch it, even in the final 5 minutes.
Awesome. Well, now that we know Art's top 18 movies and Daniela and our top favorite movies, Daniela, I have a feeling we only have a couple minutes left, so I'll hand it off to you.
Slapshot. Slapshot's a good one, too. Of course, the Paul Newman classic. Okay, see, now what happens is that's an impossible question to answer. That's really an impossible question to answer. Because
that's a hard question.
Well, then why did you give me so much crap about my answer if it's impossible to answer?
Because it's art.
I didn't think your first top of mind would be Adam Sandler. I mean, I don't know.
100%. He's my favorite. Whatever, Art. All right. On that note, we're going to wrap this thing up. Thank you, Carly. That does it for Let's Socialize today.
Great job.
Is presented by AAA. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. And now, you guys, we have come to the end of another edition of the Word on Woodward presented by Raymond. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you missed anything on today's show, you can check out the Word on Woodward YouTube channel with all of our interviews from today and all of our past shows too. So definitely check that out. Or you can listen to the show as a podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. And tonight, make sure you all tune in to Fox Sports Detroit at 8 p.m. and watch Game 2 of the 1997 Stanley Cup Final between your Detroit Red Wings and the Philadelphia Flyers. We will all definitely be tuning in. And of course, tune into the Word on Woodward next week on Tuesday and Thursday starting at noon on Red Wings and Tigers social media. And of course, DetroitRedWings.com and Tigers.com. We'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in.